Blog Talk Radio.
And hello, folks. It is Saturday night. We are back again. We are doing a special episode. Last night, when you tuned in, it was just little old me talking to Dennis Eslock, who is a remote viewer, and he also works at Cabinet 360 in Mechanicsville, Virginia. Tonight, we're going to have Ryan Jones on. He is caretaker of the facility Cabinet 360. He is a paranormal investigator, and he also runs the Vibe radio network, which we are a part of here. Adrian, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing really good, CR.
So, obviously, you weren't here with us last night. It looks like you were at work, and you're an instructor at a college, and you had graduation last night, right?
Yeah, it was very proud of the students that graduated last night. And Amy Klobuchar, our U.S. Senator, came and spoke at the ceremony. So it was pretty exciting. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, without further ado, I don't want to keep them waiting a little longer, but we have Ryan Jones on tonight. I will go ahead and bring him on. Ryan,
Hello.
How are you this evening, sir?
I am good. How are you doing tonight?
Good. So the main question is, you got your coffee ready?
Dude, I have got my coffee right here, decaf coffee, because I did not get much sleep last night for some reason. I could not get comfortable, and I was pretty much just tossing and turning all night long. So
those nights are miserable. Yeah,
they are. They are. It's one of those things where you start staring at the ceiling. You're like, okay, if I can just fall asleep now, I'll get this much sleep. And then you overthink it and you end up staying up because you think about too much. So
right.
That was me last night.
And it's so funny how the stress builds on that. Yeah.
It does. It really does. And you think like, man, I'm going to be so tired tomorrow morning. I usually have a hard time falling asleep the day before investigations or before I have to do something like this, where I know I have to be awake for an interview or like I gotta be up all night for an investigation. Just my head gets think about too much and end up staying up too late.
Right.
So last night we talked to actually found out he's your business partner with the Cabin on 360. I didn't know that about Dennis. So we talked to him last night, and we got a little download on the history of the cabin as far as the rancher and the trauma behind that. And maybe we were thinking tonight we could maybe learn a little bit more of how the land got into your family and how what's going on with you guys keeping it, and have people rented it, or are you still keeping it as a training facility?
Absolutely. And CR, I just want to pause and say hi to Michelle Lancel, who often joins us. And also just thank Ryan for getting us started in the podcast. And he has his freaking awesome paranormal show. And you can find that on Facebook. And now, I see there's Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Do you also have guests on Mondays or?
It's where our show is Tuesday at 9 o'clock. I guess it would be 8 o'clock your time. We have Vibe Time with Jerry comes on 8 o'clock our time, 7 o'clock your time. So we split the 2-hour time slot in half. So Jerry gets first half, and I get the second half of the. And I used to have shows on Mondays. Had a show Wednesday night at one point, but right now Tuesday is our permanent home.
Well, it's great. I mean, I can't imagine it's got to be exhausting to do 3 nights. Yeah.
Yeah. When we first started out the show, we had Dennis had 2 shows on a network called the URN radio network on Blog Talk. And he would do his shows Monday nights and Wednesday nights, 2 hours apiece.
Wow.
And he got tired of doing 2 nights, which I understand. And he was like, does anybody want to take over my Monday night slot? And I was talking to a friend of mine. I was like, oh yeah, I'll do it. But wasn't really I didn't really think it was going to last. It was like, I'll try it out, see how it goes and stuff. And so I took over his time slot on Monday nights and did the started the Freaking Awesome Paranormal show back in 2014, January 2014. And like I said, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. I'm not the most outgoing person in the world. I'm very, I didn't think I was going to last. Honestly, it was just one of the things where I'll try it out and see how it goes. And
right.
And then you start talking to these people and you start, meeting new people through the show and stuff like that. It becomes part of your life, part of your routine, I guess, when you start doing it every day. And had no reason to quit because I was enjoying it so much.
Right.
So we, a day became a month became a year. Now we're going on 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
Yeah. In January, it'll be the 10-year anniversary.
Wow.
And it's really cool because you'll be able to talk to some really cool people, and you get to help teams get their evidence out there, and because people want to talk about what they've captured. They want to, for lack of a better word, brag about what they've been able to experience, and I like giving them the chance to do that.
Right. So,
about a year and a half in, probably a little, maybe, I don't know, give or take a few months, I started, I went through a few co-hosts and they were good, but they just couldn't, they couldn't commit to it. They had so much other stuff going on with their lives and stuff. And it's tough to commit to doing a show every week. So I was doing the show by myself a lot. And I had, this group called Black Mountain Paranormal come on the show, and their leader was a girl named Holly Mullins. So we had them on the show, and I took a liking to her. She's from like Southwest Virginia near Kentucky. She's got that down home, country bumpkin, bless your heart type country accent to her,
Right.
And we had her on the show, and I messaged my friend Howie after that, and I'm like, dude, I think I'm going to ask Holly to be my co-host, because just the way she was just, I thought she could handle it. So I asked her, and she became a host, because she said yes. She was very excited. She became my co-host, and sorry, my computer froze, and that took the show in a whole different direction. So we started, we did the show for a while together, and something happened at the network where I think the person who was in charge of it, because we have to pay, to do Blog Talk, we got to pay a monthly fee. And the guy who was doing paying the fee didn't want to pay it anymore. He was asking if anybody wanted to take over the network. So it was Holly and I were like, yeah, we had we want to take over. We had all these plans, and the guy was like, well, I don't want you changing anything. I just want you to pay the money and not, do things the way I had it set up. And I'm like, well, we don't want to do that. If we're going to take over and start paying the money, we're going to do it our way.
Right.
So we end up leaving the URN network and then starting the Vibe Radio network. And we use it as a way to help people who want to do something like what we're doing, and it doesn't matter if it's paranormal or whatever, to give them a chance to express themselves and, get their ideas out into the world.
I think that's fabulous.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate the opportunity. It was one of these things. I never thought in a million years that I would have my own show, and it's just a creative outlet. And it, with me not working and being disabled, it helps me. I don't leave the house, but I leave the house. So,
yeah, I mean, I was in the same boat you're in, as far as not, I'm not disabled, but I didn't think I would have my own show or have my own podcast or, but it's like the same thing. You don't know it. You don't know you can do it until you do it. And I was very happy to give you a time slot. I'm always, anybody who wants to come on and try it. We have time slots for people, but it's a commitment though. It's not like,
right.
We've had people who come on and then they'll do a show and then maybe 3 weeks later they'll do another show. And it's like, I'll give you the time slot, but I'm not going to get on your case about it all the time. I'm not gonna be like, where's your show? Where's your show? Unless you take like a month or two off. And I'm like, okay, either you wanted to stay on or you don't. So we'll find somebody who does, but like I said, it is a commitment. So I'm glad you guys are on here, and I'm glad you guys are enjoying yourselves and
that's really the key, isn't it? To have a passion and to really have fun and enjoy what you're doing.
Well, I didn't think it was going to take all the work that it does, but like when we do our shows on Friday, it takes us about, half a day to prep.
See, I shouldn't say this, but I do very little preparation for the show. Just because I like not knowing stuff about people and then learning this stuff as the show goes on.
Well, and you've been doing it for 10 years, so that I'm sure that makes a huge difference too. Yeah,
it does. But I still get nervous, and every time I do the show, I get nervous. But I don't know if I think it's just when something's about to happen, and you just get nervous energy because you're just waiting for it to happen.
Right.
That's basically what it is. And then once the show starts, I calm down. It helps having Austin on the show.
Yeah.
Now.
And it's nice the way you run it because it's conversational. I mean, it's almost conversational, and you seem really relaxed.
Yeah, that's what we try to go for. We try to. Well, I usually have like a notebook next to me, and I'll have stuff written down. So just in case I have someone who's not the best at talking, I can have different plot points that I want to get to, and then we can keep the conversation going, and it's a lot easier again having someone here with me to do it.
Right.
But when I was alone doing it, I would write stuff down, write different questions down. So if stuff got stale or got we came to an end point, I'd be like, okay, well here's my next question and stuff. So then we go from there. That's about the most preparation I would do before a show. But a lot of my preparation is just like advertising and getting the word out about it and stuff like that, trying to
Well, we had I was talking to you last week, and it was funny because the show that I did with Dave Schrader, I never thought that I was gonna, that's like my holy grail of person to talk to. And I never thought I was going to do it, but we had that show. And then like the next day I come over and my mom's like, guess what? So I outdid you. And
I had to up the ante.
right. She goes, you did that. I have to top it. And one of our guests upcoming is going to be a Catholic exorcist.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I heard
Father
about
Vincent,
that.
yeah, Father Vincent Lampert. Just like Dave, he's just a gracious person and kind. And that's what really strikes me, is how that people are really willing to talk to you. And, not everybody can say yes. Sometimes you have to say no to good things just because your schedules are crazy. But we feel really fortunate that Dave was able to come on, that you helped get us started. We're able to talk to Father Lampert, and that's going to be June, I want to say the right date, 29th, right, Chris?
Let me check what I got here. Yeah, the 29th.
Yeah,
at
so that
7.
should be interesting.
Yeah.
And we're coming on your show. I'm excited for that, May 30th.
Yes.
So we get to tell of some really interesting things that have happened to us.
Yes, you'd be part of our supernatural news show, which is always a fun show. We're gonna have you guys. Rhonda's gonna be coming back on, and then of course we'll have Austin on the show. So it'll be like a old smorgasbord of different stuff going on that show. So I'm excited about that. And tell you what, I've always wanted to talk to Dave Schrader, and I haven't talked to him yet. So the fact that you guys got him on, that is awesome. What is it, like your third show? Do you have him on?
I think. Well, let me look at it here. It was
within the first few shows he was able to make it. So
yeah, it was like show number 2 or 3.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
It's and it's all really, I think, all you really have to do is ask. The worst they can say is no.
Right.
I mean, people like Dave and, Father Vincent, they want to get their stories out there. They want to, and they want to talk. And a lot of people are the same way. They want to talk about what they do. And, us giving them an outlet for them to talk about their adventures and what they have seen. It's just like any other team that wants to come on and they want to tell their stories, and we give them an opportunity to. And plus, they people with Dave and Vincent, Father Vincent, they also, give us the opportunity to talk to them and learn from them and pick their brains about certain things. Like on a week from Tuesday, I have Sean Austin coming on the show from 28 Days Haunted. And what was it? The Demon Files. They had he had actually come to the cabin on 360 back in might have been 2018. He came out there with God, I forgot his name. My brain will stop working, but he came out with I don't know, I forgot his name, but they did an overnight out there, and they had some really good activity. Actually, they spent the whole weekend out there, and they said it's one of the most active locations they ever been to.
So I'd like to do this. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on your toes there, but
no, you're fine.
So we talked to Dennis last night, and we got a little download on the history of the Brick Rancher. Can you go ahead and?
That's who it is. Dave Spinks.
What's that?
I have to look it up. Dave Spinks is the guy's name that they came down to. Yeah.
Okay.
He's like a big Bigfoot hunter.
Right. So if you could give us a little bit of history on the actual cabin and the accounts that go on there.
Well, the cabin was built as a model log home by my grandfather in the early 80s. They, at one point, my grandfather's company, Jones Realty and Construction, built log homes for New England log homes. That was a thing back in the late 70s, early 80s. So they would build model homes throughout Virginia. So people would come and they would, they'd look into the home and they would see, what the house would look like, because it was always the same. And then they would decide if they wanted to build a house or not.
Mm-hmm.
So when they stopped building the houses, the log homes, they turned the log cabin into, they started to rent it out to people for different businesses to use. Because once the murder happened next door, mm-hmm. They switched the zoning from residential to business. So you couldn't move into people couldn't live in the cabin,
right?
But they could put businesses in there. So
mm-hmm.
there were several different businesses that called the cabin home. There was a gift shop. There was a doll shop, a thrift shop, a hair salon, and probably some more that I can't. There's a dog bakery, a dog treat bakery that was in the cabin at one point.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, there have been several different businesses there.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking now, just pause for our listeners. We're talking Virginia. Are we talking Mechanicsville, Virginia? Or you're right out of
Mechanicsville. Yeah, we're in
right
Mechanicsville.
Richmond.
Yeah, we're just outside of Richmond, on 360.
Mm-hmm.
Highway 360, right?
Yes.
I was hearing about it for a long time, and then finally I put the pieces together and went, oh, on 360.
Yes, we are on 360. So I think Dennis was selling CR last night.
Mm-hmm.
That the log cabin is a landmark mm-hmm. on Mechanicsville Turnpike, which is also 360. And so when people would be like, oh yeah, you're at the cabin on 360, they know exactly what you're talking about, because there's only one cabin on 360. So, right. Use that name mm-hmm. as a way for people to know who we are,
Mm-hmm.
So, and it works out because people automatically know that, where you're talking about.
Right. So what are the paranormal claims in the cabin itself?
Well, when we first started going out there, because I was listening to the show last night for a little bit when I was at work, and I know Dennis mm-hmm. told you about how we went inside the log cabin, or not the log cabin, the brick house. Mm-hmm. And we heard the scream and everything while we were downstairs in the basement. We knew that the rancher had activity, but we didn't know anything about the cabin. Mm-hmm. So we had access to both buildings. So both buildings were empty. So we decided that we would use the cabin as our home base. We'd investigate the brick house, and then we would come back and just kind of chill out at the cabin,
right,
instead of hanging out outside the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So we started doing that, and then for some reason we decided to just investigate the log cabin to see if there's anything here too. And of course we got some EVPs. I'm like, okay, well then, all right. So now the cabin is haunted, or mm-hmm. is active. So we started investigating the cabin, and apparently before we got there, when there was a salon there, one of the girls messaged me after we were investigating out there. One of the girls from the salon messaged me and said that there was a soldier that was in the house, that they would see in the window as they drove away every once in a while. And there was a little girl that would there was a little couch. I guess it was one of those fold out couches, you can buy at the Walmart. That's like a big pillow type thing.
Yeah.
That she said would move, that they put it in a certain room at night, and when they come back the next morning, the couch would be somewhere else.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and when it was a dog daycare center, there was a young woman who messaged us. I guess her friends had seen that we had been doing investigations out at the cabin, and she messaged us, and she was like, I need to come talk to you guys. Can I come meet you guys at the cabin? I'm like, all right, that's fine. So Dennis and I met her out the cabin, and she told us that when she was working there, she had a dog biscuit bakery out there, and she said one night she was just having a rough night, and she called her friend really upset about something. She wasn't sure what. She was like, I'm going to the cabin. I'm not feeling good. Something's not right. And she hung up the phone and cut her phone off. She said she got to the cabin, sat at her desk for a little bit. Then she somehow found a bottle of Xanax. And she was like, I don't take Xanax. I don't even know how the pill bottle got there. But I decided to just down the whole bottle. And then she slit her wrist.
Oh.
And she was like, she thought she was going to die. And she said she saw herself, she came out of her body, and she looked out, and she saw herself on the ground. She was up, how they do in the movies where you leave your body and you see yourself. And she said that she saw it, and the paramedics came. Her friend called, because when she wouldn't answer her phone, the friend called the police, and the police called they called the paramedics just to be on the safe side. They came inside, they revived her, and as they were reviving her, she said that she saw an old man standing next to her and said, "This, it's not your time." And after he said that, she said that that she ended up right back in her body again after he said that. So he describes the old man to us. And then Dennis looks at me, and she said, it sounds like the man that I saw. Now, rewind a year previous, we were at we were doing one of our Christmas investigations, and Dennis didn't feel like driving home that night, so he decided to sleep upstairs in a loft area. So he had his Bluetooth speaker going, and for some reason his phone got disconnected from the Bluetooth. So he reaches up to grab his phone to reconnect it. And he says he saw a full-figured man standing over him. So he's always carrying. So he goes to reach for his pistol. He turns his head a little bit to grab it, looks up, and the guy's gone.
Wow.
What the girl described to us is the same exact man that he saw that night. So, and people have seen little boys, little children out there in the cabin. Some teams have said they've seen ghost cats in the cabin. But I mean, shadow figures, I sent you that video of the orb going through the window.
Yep.
Yeah,
that was interesting.
Wow. And the window, that was middle of December when Twisted did that investigation. It was cold, probably maybe in the teens or lower 20s, low 20s. I almost said early 20s, but like that's not the right. It was in the early 20s. So yeah, it's interesting thing. Before I even got into the paranormal, there was a hair salon there, and for some reason, I don't know why. I'm not saying it's paranormal or anything, but they just left. They had they took the cash out of the cash register and just booked it, and there were. They left everything behind. They left their chairs behind. They left all their products behind.
It's unusual.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
All the nail polish. There was a tanning bed upstairs in the back room, and there was a rumor that it was used as a brothel at one point. And that kind of goes with some of the activity we've gotten upstairs in the log cabin. Lots of you'll get moans, and I got an EVP of a woman saying I'm naked upstairs in the back room and stuff. And so I mean, there's no
creepy, yeah,
and there's no real proof. There's nothing I've looked up. I haven't been finding anything that says anything about it. But to go with what we've captured, it sounds like it could be a very strong possibility that actually happened.
Interesting.
And then you've got the land itself, and that's more like Civil War spirits and stuff like that.
Right.
That was really, I'm pretty uneducated about the Civil War and geography, and I've been educating myself, and I'm like, holy buckets, you were like the vortex of the Civil War there, because you had the Union headquarters and you had a Confederate headquarters, and that number of battles, oh my gosh, on right where you were, there like 7 battles, but that wasn't all. I mean, in bloody, horrible things on that.
And we'll be sitting on the front porch after investigation, 1:00 in the morning. We'll hear cannon fire going off, and who's going to be like setting off cannons, at 1:00 in the morning,
right?
Musket fire, or one time we were sitting on the porch and we were just hanging out, and we heard what sounded like the wagon wheels going over the gravel of the access road next to us, and you could hear the clopping of the horses as the wagon drove by, and there was nothing there, and I thought, well, maybe it was a car or something, but I couldn't explain the horse shoes, the horse clopping.
Right.
I mean, it blew me away because I was like, well, you're only like 100 miles from Washington, D.C. So what was the Union, or what was the Confederate headquarters doing there? But what I learned today was that you had all the industry, the iron works, the flour mills, the grist, or the woolen mills, and it was really an industrial powerhouse to be able to clothe and get that army going. And wow.
Yeah, Richmond was probably the newest industrial city of the South, I reckon, because they are so far up north compared to like Atlanta. But I don't know that for sure. I am not the history buff. Like whenever I have to give a tour of something, or like, because whenever we do the public investigations, Dennis is always the one that gives the information, and he can keep track better than I can of where the different encampments were during the battle. And the name of the battle that took place on the land is called the Battle of Bethesda Church.
Mm-hmm.
And that it was an old church that I think the Union took as a base, and I guess the Confederates were trying to get it back.
Right.
But when we've captured, we dug up a lot of bullets and stuff in the woods behind the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
We had some really cool trinkets that we found in the woods, and about 2 years ago, my friend, Howie, was doing his show, and his girlfriend there at the time had never been to the cabin, and I was going to show them some of the trinkets that we found, and so I go and keep them on the mantle above the fireplace, and I go look for them, and they weren't there. So I'm like, that's odd. So then I noticed that there are other things missing. So I called Dennis up. I'm like, okay, did you take the table? Because I thought maybe he took it for some reason.
Right.
He took the relics for to show somebody or whatever. And he's like, no, what are you talking about? And I'm like, all these things are gone. So at one point, somebody had broken in and stolen a bunch of our stuff.
Oh.
And they took a bunch of the Civil War artifacts that we had found. Luckily, we've been able to find more bullets back there, but we had a brooch called a Love Always brooch that I guess the ladies would give their husbands or boyfriends or loved ones to, like, as a good luck charm to come to get back home.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, these relics, and these relics are, the last time they were touched by a human hand was the Civil War.
Right.
And to feel that power and to feel that, just that, I guess, the energy from knowing that was the last time these things were actually touched just blows me away, really.
Mm-hmm. So let's now that we got
wait a minute.
Yep.
Did he take those things that were missing? You said previously they were taken.
No.
They were taken then.
They were taken by the people who broke in.
That's sad. Sorry to hear that.
Like I said, we have been able to find
the
more bullets and stuff.
But do you get people coming and saying, "Hey, I'm a metal detectorist. Can I?"
We do, and if I don't know you, excuse me. If I don't know you, I probably won't want to let you do it. But
yeah, I don't think I would either if I didn't know the person. Yeah.
Because honestly, if you find something, we want to keep it.
Yeah, it's history, right? It's history.
And we have had people come on the property and decide to metal detect on their own, and we have posted no trespassing signs up. But
it's
only so much we can do. But we do have people looking out for the cabin. If someone drives by and they see a car out there, they will call Dennis, or they'll call me, and they'll be like, do you know this person or whatever?
Yeah, it's a trespass, but also somewhat of a sacred trespass as well. What went on there?
I don't know if I'd want to get confronted by Dennis. I just no.
You would not want to get confronted by Dennis.
But it's good to have a security-oriented person there.
Yeah. Honestly, there's no way this cabin would be where it is without him. Because he does it all, man. He's good at history, and he's good at giving you tours, and yeah, like I said, Dennis, the cabin would not be where it is without him.
Right. So we've got about 20 minutes left, and I can't believe we've got 20 minutes left already. But let's talk about your investigations. You and I were talking a little bit, and you were saying that you actually use a minimal amount of electronic devices to investigate. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what your style is and how you would go about an investigation?
Well, the main reason I don't use the electronic devices is because I can't afford the electronic devices. Now, when I go on a public investigation, when we have publics at the cabin, I will borrow Dennis's, K2 meters and EMF detectors, and I'll put them out, But when I'm by myself, I just use my recorder on my phone, and I use an app called the Necrophonic app, which it's a app you pay for, but it works very well. And I sent you an EVP I captured in Cold Harbor, where I ask if what happened here, and the voice comes through, says it's in the museum.
Right.
Intelligent response. But as far as like my method is, I try to ask. I try to be like conversation wise. I try to keep it very friendly. I try to talk to the spirits like they're people, and which is hard to do when you're not getting a response back.
Right.
But when I walk into the cabin, I'll say, "Hey, how you doing, guys?" And stuff like that. Even if I'm not investigating,
right.
I try to be very friendly with the spirits that are in the houses. Maybe not so much as the spirits downstairs in the basement of the Brick Rancher, because of what they're known for.
Well, we know Dennis's style.
Yes. Yeah, he walks down there and go, "Hey, asshole." He'll but that's how he does things, and I am a little more discreet with it. I don't do that just because Dennis can handle it, and I don't want to handle it. I'd rather not antagonize.
Right.
But I'll ask like don't be scared, or I'll be like stuff like that, but I don't really go too far.
Well, because he said he told me last night there was a New Year's Eve event out there one time, and everybody was in the cabin, and kids are dancing around, everything's going on. He's sitting in his chair drinking a cup of coffee, and he feels like he wants to get up and pull his pistol out and shoot everybody. And he walked over to the rancher and opened the door and, just had a couple of words with it.
Yeah. And it just goes to show that this whatever is in the basement can affect anybody, even someone as strong-willed as Dennis.
And you don't feel that same malevolence at the cabin, but this rancher, which we have up now, you feel it in there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
People have felt it in there. Although we had a team drive down from New Hampshire. They rented the cabin out for the weekend. $400 at the time, a little bit more now. But
I was going to say that's not bad for a weekend.
No, yeah. It's we raised the prices a little bit to pay bills and stuff. But they drove 9 hours in a expedition. And they get there, and Dennis gives them the tour. And about an hour after he left, Dennis said they called and they said they were packing up.
Oh, wow.
And they were going home. And Dennis was like, are you sure? I can come, I can say I can come out there and I can, talk to the spirits. I can calm stuff down. You don't have to leave. And the guys were like, no, we're leaving. Apparently what happened was they'd been investigating for, I think, between them 30 years of experience between the two of them.
Oh, they were quite experienced then.
Oh yeah, they had been to a lot of the most famous locations that people talk about, and they were saying it was as soon as they got there, they said things didn't feel right. One of the guys said that they went upstairs into the log cabin upstairs in the loft area, and they said they saw what looked like a half man, half goat looking figure upstairs in the loft area of the cabin. Yeah,
that would do it. Yeah.
No,
yeah,
thanks.
it's pretty freaky, and I'd never seen anything like that before. And another guy, and they were kind of getting at each other, sniping at each other.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys were like, we're best friends. We are practically brothers, but brothers that don't fight.
Yeah.
We love each other. We never had a crossword at all.
Mm-hmm.
The whole team, they'd never, fought at all. And they were just kind of like at each other's like throats. And one of the guys was like, I'm going to go in the woods. I got to take a piss. And he goes and he walks and he goes into the woods, and he said, as soon as he was done, he looks up and he said there were men with hoods standing around him, and he was like, I turned my flashlight on him, and they disappeared. And they get back, and I don't know, I'm not sure which one said it, but one of the guys was like, I just want to punch you in the face right now. And the other guy was like, all right, we're leaving. Pack up the stuff.
Right.
This isn't worth it. And they left. And I don't think they ever went into the brick house.
So for those who are maybe listening and don't know about the brick house, what can you tell us about that Elliott house and Melissa Elliott?
October 4th, 1979, young lady by the name of Melissa Carol Elliott was raped and shot by her 17-year-old stepbrother, Randy Lynn Elliott. She was getting ready to go to school. And the guy, Randy, had said he'd taken a hit of cocaine, and he went into a room as she was getting changed. And as she was screaming at him to get out, he said he blacked out. And when he came to, he found her body on the floor. Actually, I got a copy of the so you're gonna find it. Copy of the statement that he shared with the police. So
wow.
If I read to you if you want me to.
Sure. Go ahead.
After I took some coke in the bathroom, I went for the living room. From the living room. From there, I entered my sister's bedroom, and she became angry and ordered me out. She then grabbed me. I pushed her away, and that's the last I remember. I then regained consciousness. I found myself lying halfway in and halfway out of my sister's bedroom door. A pistol, which is owned by my father, was lying beside me. I then got up and was staggering when I saw my sister's lying on the floor. I went over and felt her arm. Her body was cold. I then went to the living room where I sat down in a chair. Decided to take the body outside of the box. And began. I then went to the room where I sat in a chair. I became scared and decided to take the body outside of the box. I took the body out of the box and began dragging her into the weeds located in the field in the back of the house. My sister was fully dressed. Several men came up to me and asked me what I was doing. So, and that kind of goes against what what I was told by my father, that my grandfather had sent two had sent two workers out to do some work behind the house that day, and they found the refrigerator box, and when they went to open it, they found her, and I guess they went to move it. They figured there's something. They realized there's something in there. Opened it up. They found her body. So they call my dad and on the radio, and he comes out and he meets the police out there, and he actually helps move her body into the body bag.
Oh wow!
And, yeah.
What a horrific, tragic thing.
Right.
For your dad, for obviously the family, the community.
And it's tough because I'm looking here and I'm seeing her face and I'm reading the statement that the guy gave, and it's like it's hard to put two and two together that this actually happened to an actual person.
Right.
And we try to keep that in our minds when we go to the brick house. It's easy to I guess any location, but since we know the person, we know her history, it hits home more.
Yeah. It seems to me you have a real heart and you really respect.
Yeah. She's a part of our lives.
Yeah.
She has done so much for, a lot of people. We have we call the 360 family that always comes together for our investigations. I wouldn't have met my girlfriend Angie without the cabin. We met at the cabin. I would have RJ without the cabin. But none of it would have happened without her. And it's not something she chose to have happen, obviously.
Right.
But we like to keep her memory alive by having these investigations and doing the public investigations, and
there's been fundraisers too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we've raised money for flood victims. We've raised money for the American Cancer Society, Heart Association, Alzheimer's Association. We've had investigations to raise money for people who are suffering from cancer. So yeah, if you ever want to if anybody knows anything they want to have a fundraiser for, we are open to suggestions for investigations.
Well, thank you for reading that statement, because that was one of the things that I wondered, because I had just finished this book about the Warrens, Elaine and Ed Warren, and they had some experiences in Connecticut where they were working with a family who had true demonic, not just infestation, but actual possession of family members. And the Catholic Church was involved. It took a long time. And there was a murder. And the defense wanted to bring forward that the murderer had just totally blacked out. And everybody was surprised. He was surprised. He woke up walking down the road. And so, I kind of wondered about that too, if they're really if not to excuse anything, but just to take that perspective and say, could it have been?
It's tough because
it's kind of disturbing. You move the body, though. I mean,
no, yeah, I think we don't know what happened before this murder. We don't know the family history as far as abuse is concerned. All we know is the end result, which was her dying.
Right.
Part of me thinks that this is something that has happened before. Not, obviously, not not dead, the death part, but I think we think that, she may have been abused. We had one of our friends come over to one of our investigations, and she said that she was supposed to spend the night at her house on that Friday. But she had been over there before, and she said that her brother spent a lot of time in the basement where they were there. She was there, and he would come upstairs, and his mom would call him upstairs, and he'd come upstairs, eat dinner, then he'd throw his dishes in the sink and go back downstairs again. And that's a lot of times people, when they go downstairs in the basement, they will feel that negative energy a lot more downstairs. So there is again, I'm not looking for an excuse for him, but there is, there could have been a negative influence on him, but it's him. They decided to pull the trigger.
Well, and I think there's no judge, unless something really changes in the court system, that's going to let somebody have the devil as a defense,
No. Yeah. And that wasn't something he said. I don't think that wasn't anything that he didn't know about any of that stuff. But it's one of those things where, when you have so many people experience the same thing, and people that are not just, John Q. Public coming on an investigation, who hear about the stuff, hear about the negative energy, and they think they feel negative energy because someone says there's negative energy in there. Your mind can play tricks on you a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's that's the thing with front loading is, and a lot of the sensitives, when they go, like Cindy Kaza, when she goes into a building, she doesn't want to be front loaded because she doesn't want to sit there and go, okay, well, they told me Johnny is here and he likes to be upstairs, because you're always thinking, okay, he's going to be there.
Yeah, exactly. You learn to expect stuff.
It's probably better if you're a sensitive, or in that genre, that you don't know, right?
Yeah. Unless
it's dangerous, maybe.
Well, yeah, it's it's good to know things to a certain point. Like if you're going into a place like the brick house, you want to be prepared for what's in there mentally.
Yep.
And protective wise. But you don't need to know. I think we talked about this last week with Clifton. You don't need, some people need to know everything, or people want to know other people's experiences. But it's also good to know, like, hey, these people have felt this. So if you didn't come in here, you need to be prepared for this, for, feeling anger towards people and stuff like that. But you got go ahead.
So we're coming up on 90 seconds on the show. Why don't you go ahead and finish your thought, and then I had another question for you before we end it out.
And if you have just a couple minutes beyond that, I wanted to know a little bit more about you. I had some questions. I won't keep you too long.
No, it's fine. I was saying, even the most experienced investigator, it has been subject to whatever's in the basement. So it doesn't matter if you're if you're new to it, or you've been doing it for 20, 30 years. It'll come after it'll come after you, and you just gotta be prepared for it.
Yep.
Wow.
So my question is when you do an investigation in the Brick Rancher, have you contacted Melissa at all? Has she tried to reach out? Does she know what's going on now?
I have a couple EVPs from Melissa. The one I sent to Karen, there was where Dennett were doing an SV7, which is one of those little like devices that kind of goes through radio stations, you know,
Yep.
and it skips through different frequencies, AM frequencies. And Dennis asked if the name Randy is significant, and a voice comes through saying he did it.
Oh, wow.
Clear as day. And then I think last year I got an EVP of a person saying I was shot.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio.
Goodbye.
Yeah, and we are clear of Blog Talk, so that means we are extra time on StreamYard.
We're in the after party. What?
Right.
Who's got the booze?
That's right.
But I have that food.
Hang out the champagne room over here.
Need both.
So she has reached out to you guys, and you do have evidence of her.
Like I said, there's the EVPs. I got an EVP, what sounds like somebody singing, and I sent it to her friend that came out to the cabin, and she says, I am 99% sure that's her singing.
Wow.
Because she thinks she's singing the church choir or something. And again, to know that she was into the choir helps us become more connected to her.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And it's funny, I had this background, and just when I put her picture in, she went into the clouds, and I was like, I don't know. I was just like thinking of her being in a good place. And
it's, like you walk into the brick house, and again, you have to remind yourself that that's what happened in the house. But we try to bring positive energy into the house whenever we go in it as well.
Right.
Try to bring positive energy to the property by having these investigations and having that sense of camaraderie. Because you can't guarantee activity when you have in these investigations. As much as I'd love to have something happen every single time people come out, and it does, and a lot of times it does happen, but I know it's not going to happen every time.
Right.
So, but people come back because they have a good time. They enjoy, meeting people and the camaraderie that we have out there. So,
what an
it's a good
interesting mix. I mean, it's almost like you're in the Bermuda Triangle of paranormal because of the Civil War property. Everything that happened there was just, there's so many battles. When I was looking that up today, and I went, how could so many battles be in that area? I mean, it was just mind-blowing. And then to have the question I wanted to ask you was, did you grow up in this community then?
Well, I grew up, see, there is different parts. Like Mechanicsville is more. I know where Mechanicsville is. I grew up in Henrico. Mechanicsville is Hanover County. So I'm more west. Grew up more west towards the city. Like Thomas Jefferson's boyhood home is about 2 miles from my dad's house.
Wow.
Yeah, see, we just don't have that here. We're Midwest, and then I come from the Pacific Northwest. And so it's just a totally, I've just been kind of thinking about where you're at, where you live, being in that part of the country. And as in my youth, I could care less about history, but now I want to know more. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so fascinating.
So they're like, Jamestown is about an hour away from where we are. And I sent in an EVP I captured at Henricus Park. Henricus is the second established colony, or established, I guess, city after Jamestown, and it's where Pocahontas was kept after she started living with the English.
Okay.
And, Reverend Andrew Whitaker. And I was in the house that was built as Reverend Whitaker's house. Of course, it wasn't his actual house. It was, a model of it, but we were upstairs in one of the bedrooms, or I guess the room Pocahontas stayed in. And my friend asked if she's like, I feel your energy again. And he said, because she felt it, and she said, thank you. And you can hear a little girl's voice saying, welcome.
Yeah,
that's the one you sent.
That's the one that I showed Mom and Dad.
We were listening to that and went, oh my gosh.
Now, was that Pocahontas saying welcome? I don't know.
Right. Well, and it was clear as day. I mean, you had to turn the volume up a little bit, but it was clear and crisp.
It's kind of, but you could tell it was distinct from the other voices that were talking, and it was kind of like this quiet little thank you.
Yeah, and it was just me and her there in the house. So there wasn't anybody in the house with us. So it's always fun when you get EVPs like that. I had sent another one where we had gone to a plantation house called Bell Nemus Plantation. And it was my dad's girlfriend at the time. She'd bought the place and she was renovating it. And I was with All Seeing Paranormal Society, which I'm still with today, and Commonwealth Researchers of the Paranormal. But at the time, I was just with All Seeing Paranormal Society, and we had gone out there for an investigation. And I just bought a new Sony recorder. And I didn't know how to turn it off yet. I thought I turned it off. I stuck it in my pocket, and we were outside. And I think I was by myself at the time. I think my partner had gone somewhere, and the rest of the team had not come outside yet. And so I had the recorder going in my pocket, and I captured what sounded like an Indian chanting and clapping.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it wasn't any of us. Because I know, if I had heard one of our team members chanting and clapping, I would have been like, all right, what the heck? What are you doing?
Right. That would be quite unusual, I would imagine.
Yes. I'd be like, are you okay? Do I need to take you?
Yeah,
somewhere?
right. Yeah. Well, that would be a beautiful capture, wouldn't it? That's amazing.
It was great.
You are so gracious, and I'm not saying we have to end right now, but I just really appreciate your kindness and getting us started, and it's been fun to listen to your shows and just to hear about your experiences.
Right.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me on the show, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to start a show on the network. Because I should say our network, because it belongs to everyone. It's all of ours. It's not my network. It's every person who does a show who has had a show on the network. Once you're part of the Vibe Radio Network, you're always a part of the Vibe Radio Network.
Yeah, I love it. It's really been a lot of fun, and it doesn't seem like work. I mean, we do some work around it, but it's more fun than anything. So, anything that is fun to me, like, it doesn't take away my energy so much. Yeah. It's more like I get energy. And that's actually pretty good, because I have a tendency to be more introverted, even though I'm a teacher and I can be an extrovert. I just really find it motivating. So thank you again. And
I appreciate it. I think a lot of times it's easier to do stuff like this when you're just having conversation with somebody like we're having, you know, and you don't look at it as an interview. Just look at it as just people talking. And then it's a lot easier to feel more comfortable with what you're doing. And the longer you do it, the more you get used to it. And because I was very rigid and stuff when I first started. But then, as you know, it took me 10 years to get there. But eventually, I was more all right. I can actually do this.
Right.
Yeah, it's that. I think the conversational style. There is something to that, and just being relaxed, and that's the impression I get.
So I had one last question before we end it tonight, and that is, I know you know that I did Civil War reenacting for 10 years.
Yes.
And we had a theory that us reenactors see the paranormal action and they bring themselves to us because our theory is that they see us in uniform and they can't tell that the war's been over for over 100 years.
Wow.
I think you're right. I think I got a friend of mine who could do his reenacting and stuff that, you know, I'll get him to come out to, you know, to the cabin dressed up in his Civil War outfits or costume, Civil War kit, I guess, gear.
Yeah.
I'll use the right word here. And to fire a musket and, you know, and we will take, sometimes we'll, during an investigation, I will put like a campfire type like video on my phone, and I will put it on the ground, and you'll sound like a campfire going, and we'll act like we're part of a Civil War camp, and like, hey, you want to come join us and stuff like that,
right?
And we'll use terms that were used during the Civil War to try to make people feel comfortable. We'll play Dixie, you know, and we'll play the Battle Hymn of the Republic. We'll see if do you like the song? Do you not like the song?
Which side are you? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just try to get any kind of response.
Although they had a Confederate version of the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Okay.
Oh, well, maybe I'll find that one too.
Yeah, and my thing is, you know, you mentioned firing the muskets. So one of the big moments that I had was when I was with my group. We went out to Fort Ridgely, which is outside of New Ulm, and I have ties to that fort because one of our ancestors were there on my dad's side. And we were just hanging out one day and nobody was there. It was like a Friday after we set up, and my buddy and I were bored, and my commanding officer looks at him and he goes, "Hey, why don't you guys take your muskets and go show them the breastworks?" And I had always heard about the breastworks and had never been there. And basically what it was is the day after Little Crow came up, Sibley came out with his men and they dug these line of trenches at the top of the hill overlooking the valley where Little Crow came up. So if he did that again, they could put a line of fire down on them as they're coming up the hill. So, and my buddy was like, "Yeah, we can do that. I've been out there. I know where they're at." So we walked out there. We had to cross a golf course to get there. But we get to the end of the golf course and it's just woods. And then we took maybe 5 steps in, and all it was a little divot. You would step in and, you know, you'd maybe sink down to your ankle, and that's all it was. But when it was built, you know, there was room for a couple of guys waist deep. And our thing was, I was just sitting there and drinking it in. I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." And I turned around to walk away, and he's like, "We have our muskets. We have our powder bags full of powder." So we sat there and we shot off a couple of rounds, and that was cool. And because as soon as you pulled the trigger, it was like a 4-second wait, and you would hear it come back across the valley.
Hmm.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I tell you, after we did that, I started sensing some stuff. It
That's
was
the thing.
interesting.
Energy is everywhere. I mean, it
Mhm.
does take something sometimes to set it off and for people to notice it. But especially someplace like that where people have died. There's a lot of energy on that land, and by
Absolutely.
you doing that, you triggered something that
Right.
you guys felt.
Mhm.
Yep.
And it's powerful.
Yeah. And that was the river where Company A had been ambushed. They were out on patrol and they were going out on patrol. They had gone down the hill, and they were getting ready to cross. And a bunch, like 2 or 3 Dakota Sioux, acted like, "Oh, come get us," and tried to bring them out. So Captain Marsh told all his guys, "Okay, let's cross the river." And unfortunately, Captain Marsh didn't know how to swim and got
Oh, wow.
swept away. And his gear, he had,
Oh.
the officer uniforms are heavier than enlisted. So you've got that. You've got the boots. You've got the
Yeah.
haversack. And then on top of that, you've got the sword if
And
you're
on
an
top of that,
officer.
you can't swim.
Yeah, and it just
That's
they
sad.
were walking and it swept his feet out from under him. And that is when my group was called up. It was after Captain Marsh passed away. They called up the 5th Minnesota to come and replace him, and Captain Sheehan replaced Captain Marsh. And then that's when Little Crow came up and attacked. And maybe we'll go deeper into another show on that. But that was just one of my interests.
That stuff fascinates me because again, living on the East Coast, I know most about, what happened here. I don't know about all that history. I have family in Michigan. That's where my mom is from. So I do have Midwest roots. But I know very little about Minnesota.
Well, you're always welcome. We have guest rooms here, so
nice. You guys are always welcome down here in Virginia. You've got some, if you like history, then this is a place.
Yeah, that would be fun.
We are surrounded by it.
Yeah.
So, this is a little off topic, but just because Chris CR, is that the same Springfield that I got a fire?
You're gonna bring that up?
I know, it's just totally by chance, because as we know in history, those guys, the different sides with the muskets would line up, and you had no idea who you were going to shoot, if you were going to shoot, where it was going to go. There just wasn't, because they weren't spiral board or whatever on the.
Yeah, they weren't rifled. So the one that I had was a 1842 smoothbore Springfield. It was a 49 caliber musket.
And what are they called? It's not reenactments, but they remake, or not remake them, but Dan's from the other room. What's the correct term? Oh, he's talking about the caliber.
But anyway, reproduction.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's the word for it.
Why now, Adrian? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so we had gone out. My uncle's got land up in Wisconsin. We've got our own firing range out there, and we went out to go shoot guns one day. And I thought, I shot it live every now and then. I thought, well, we'll bring it up with us. We've got some caps and we've got some balls and patching for enough for everybody to have a shot. And we were probably standing 12 25, about 25 yards away from the target. And that was pretty much the extent for that smooth bore. So I had a shot. My dad had a shot. My uncle took a shot. And I'm like, one more. And I'm like, you know what? Mom hasn't shot it yet. So I said, hey, you want to go ahead? And she goes, yeah. So as I was loading, I was showing her the manual of arms of, okay, this is this step, this is that step, and now you do this. Loaded it up, and we had a paper target, like I said, 25 yards downrange. And it was just like, hand her, I put it on full cock for her. She walks up, and I'm sitting there with my dad and my uncle. I'm like, she ain't gonna hit the broadside of a barn. There's no way. She's gonna go like wide left or wide right. She pulled that trigger, cloud of smoke went, and all of a sudden my uncle goes, no, that can't be. That,
it was
no.
a bullseye. I'm like, yeah.
Dad looks, she drilled it.
Bullseye. Of course, I had to make the most of it, right?
Bullseye.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
And the funny thing is she was like, oh, that was fun. Can I do it again? And I got the most sour look on my face.
He's like, no, you're not.
Just mad because I was like, no, we can't. Because you know what? That was the last full measure.
First time, and then one of Paul's daughters got a bullseye on it after that. So it was like, I think that 2 bullseyes that I've been aware of both been us girls. So that's cool.
And it was just a little infuriating because that was the last full measure that we had for the day.
Yeah, you can't predict those things.
No,
that's just crazy that it even hit the bolt target.
I guess it's good to go out with a bang.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to thank you, Ryan, for coming on today.
Very much.
We had scheduled this in advance. I know that's a hard thing to do sometimes, is scheduling. Because like within the first week of me doing the shows, I had us booked into June.
Yeah, it's been fun. Got a lot of good ideas.
And right now, I think we're booked out into what, like first week of July.
Yeah, I think we might still have a June date, but
yeah,
I'm waiting to hear from someone, and you're waiting to hear from someone.
Mm-hmm. It's good to just get booked out, and so you have an idea of who you're going to have on the show coming up and stuff. So.
Right. And
I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no problem.
I did look up the holiday today. You know how we do the show. And I want to wish you guys a very happy National Crouton Day, because I know that's a big holiday for you guys. So
right.
Happy Crouton Day. Thank you for taking the time to have me on the show.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Holiday.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Do you want to tell us when your next show is and who you're going to have on?
My next show is Tuesday night at 9:00 p.m. Eastern Time, 8:00 p.m. Central Time. We have Shadows Abound Paranormal, a paranormal group out of Virginia, coming on the show Tuesday night. So looking forward to having them. And then the week after that, we've got Sean Elliott. Not Sean Elliott. Sean Austin. I think of Melissa Elliott. Sean Austin coming on the show. And then we'll have you guys back on the show for Supernatural News. So that's exciting.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Me too. Definitely.
So, all right, Ryan. Well, it was a pleasure having you on, and now I have a better in-depth knowledge of the cabin, which I've always, once you said, hey, this is where we work, I wanted to have a little bit more knowledge in it, and that's always interesting. So wanted to thank you for that. And we'll hopefully do this again. Maybe I'll come back on your show as a co-host, or we can have you on as a guest co-host, or, just keep it going in the Vibe family.
Yeah, definitely. If Austin has to call out, I will bring you on, and you can help out, and I'll come on whenever I can.
All righty.
You out.
All right. Good? Well, yes, sir. It does. You have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Ryan.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya. So that it was Ryan Jones.
He's awesome.
He is
really awesome.
And
nice person.
Yeah, so that brings our show up to just about an hour and a half. So before we go here, pardon me, let's go ahead and talk about maybe our next two guests that we're going to have on. So next Friday, which is refresh my mind on that date.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, I didn't even know what.
It's the 19th.
Yeah. Okay. We're having Tony Price on.
Yes. And for those who don't know, Tony Price was a U.S. Navy veteran, U.S. Navy personnel in the 80s. And he worked in Texas at Navy ComDet, which was communications depot. We're going to talk to him about his service and about his time in. And then we're also going to talk to him about what he's been doing afterwards. And I think what he's been doing afterwards is almost as important as what he was doing while he was serving. You want to kind of tell our listeners and viewers of what he's doing now?
Well, amazingly, he has gone across country. And they will... Those men and women that have fallen in the military, they will visit and honor their families. So, and gosh, I'm trying to think of the name of the association.
Gold Star Foundation.
Gold Star Foundation.
Yeah.
So, what an amazing tribute, and what an amazing thing to do. And so, I'm very excited to talk with Tony.
And I've actually worked with a group called the Freedom Riders, where they're a group, and they go and they do that, and they're really good at what they do. So we will have that next Friday. I don't know why I just closed up my day planner, because I need to look at it, but
yeah. Well, then the 30th will be on Ryan's show, but that's right. Friday. But then,
so the 26th, we're going to have Jake Steiner come on and talk about Civil War reenactors and paranormal activity, paranormal investigations. And like I mentioned when Ryan was on, we have this thought, and when I say we, I say us reenactors and living historians, that when you are linked in a such way as you are putting the clothes on, acting in a certain way, maybe even acting as a person, like we call first person reenacting, where you read about the person, and when you're, in the clothing on the site, you are that person. We think that because we do that and they see that we're in their clothing, they don't know, they feel comfortable talking to us because they don't know that something has ended. So Jake Steiner and I were actually in the 7th Iowa Cav Division together. Our group was a dismounted cavalry group. So that means we didn't have horses. So during the battles, we would bolster the infantry's infantry's number, and we would go out. And the cavalry was interesting because they didn't really have the standard length muskets. They had carbines, which were shorter because they were working around horses, and they had sabers. So we'll get to talk to Jake about that. and that brings out May. And we'll just talk one more. So Friday, June 2nd is going to be a show about N-scale model railroading. That is another one of my passions. Is I have a N-scale model railroad that I'm putting together in my house, and basically that night we're going to be talking to two of my fellow friends who are also in that, and they're also in N-scale, and we're going to be talking about once you make the decision to, okay, I want to get in this hobby, there's decisions to make, and there's never ending decisions on that, because you have to, what size train am I going to run? Where am I going to put it in my house? How big is it going to be? You know, what era do I want? Do I want steam trains? Do I want diesel? Do I want new prototypical? So that will be in June, the first week. That will be Kim Remsen and Anthony Bianchi.
Mm-hmm.
And
that'd be nice. Yeah.
That would be good to have them on. So I think with that, we had a pretty successful show tonight. What are your thoughts on it, Adrian?
Oh, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really did. And I just want to mention one more date, because it's a big one. It's going to be June 29th. I think we already talked about this. That we will have Father Vincent Lampert on. We're going to ask him to tell us about the devil and what both the extraordinary works or activities of the devil are, and what the ordinary activities of the devil are. And there is a difference. So I'm very excited about that as well.
And for people who didn't hear, he is an ordained exorcist with the Catholic Church, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's in the Diocese of Indianapolis, and he was one of the 12 priests that were sent to Rome, because at the time he got his training, I think it was like in the early 2000s, there was no training in the United States. Now, today it's different. They've built it up. They've built up the exorcist numbers, and there is training within the United States. But when Father Lampert did his training, he went to Rome and was trained by some of the greats there. And so, yeah, that'll be really interesting.
Yeah, maybe ask him that, hey, is pea soup involved in exorcisms?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm sure. Okay, well, thank you, CR, for a great show.
Yeah, so join us again next week, like we said, Friday at 7:00, and we will be talking to AG5 Tony Price about his service in the U.S. Navy. That ends it for today, and everybody have a wonderful week, and we will see you next